You're listening to Where You Live with Gene Sullivan.
Welcome back to Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan. I'm broadcasting from the True North Painting Studios. The show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency, and Extreme Exteriors. You can count on Extreme Exteriors for expert installation of exterior siding, roofing, soffits, fascia decks, windows, and more. With their knowledge and experience, they can design the perfect solution to make your home beautiful and energy efficient, saving you maintenance and money for years to come. Give them a call at 763-441-1334 and tell them Gene sent you. It's time now to hear from the Community Associations Institute. The CAI Minute is brought to you by New Concepts Rental Management. Whether you're an accidental landlord or a seasoned investor, New Concepts Rental Management can advise and guide you through every aspect of the business. Give us a call at 952-922-2500.
Are you a volunteer in your homeowner association? Maybe a residential property manager wanting to increase your industry knowledge and obtain professional credentials in property management. Are you a vendor or professional offering services to homeowners and associations or property managers? If you said yes to any one of those questions, then join the Community Association Institute. The CAI is a great organization, helping you be informed and more proficient in your homeowner association board member or property manager role. It's also a great way to network with potential clients. For nearly 40 years, CAI has provided education and resources to volunteer homeowners who govern community associations and the professionals who support them. Visit cai-mn.com to learn more. That's cai-mn.com. The Minnesota chapter of CAI holds monthly managers' luncheons, board member education training, property manager certification training, and much more. It also produces a bi-monthly informative magazine called Minnesota Community Living. Why not join the Community Association Institute today? You can do so online at cai-mn.com and select membership.
If you're just joining us, we're talking today about a potential new mandatory code that could take place for new single-family homes that are built. And that would be a code that would be established by the IRC, the International Residential Code, used here in the United States for single-family homes, saying that the cost to have your home with a system of fire sprinklers would be what needs to be done to be able to address the 3,000 people that die each year in the United States because of home fires. Now, I was talking about it is a good, noble goal that they're talking about, but I asked the question, does it make sense? Is this the correct solution? I mean, who could be against such a noble cause? Well, one group, for instance, would be the National Association of Home Builders, the people who have to see that they're installed in the new homes that are being built. They have a spokesperson for that organization. His name is Stephen Orlowski. He's the program manager for construction codes and standards at the National Association of Home Builders. And he says, this is his quote, he says, "We're not against residential fire sprinklers as a voluntary measure," he said. He said, "There is a minimum balance between cost, safety, and welfare." He said, "You could do everything to the nth degree, get 100% safety, but that's not the purpose of the code." So he said, you know what, it makes sense. Why don't we, but he feels that it would be better to have this as a voluntary process. If there is someone who says, you know what, when I'm getting the home built, the decision ought to be between the person who's going to own the home. Doesn't that make sense for that person to say, I'll make the decision on whether or not I will have a fire sprinkler system installed for my family's home? This last year, what's interesting, we were talking about this as a new change in the code with the IRC. This last year in 2013, what's interesting to note, I don't know if you were aware, but there were over 2,400 proposals for 2,400 different changes in the building code as it pertains to single-family homes. This was just in 2013, and this was according to Stephen Orlowski, who is with the National Association of Home Builders. And that's pretty significant. I think it's also significant to understand that the NAHB, they took positions on 960 of the 2,400. Now, just because they took a position on 960, or, it's less than half of all of the proposals for changes in building codes, that doesn't mean that they had a position that they were always opposed to that. But in this particular case, they are. What is it that they found out? Why is it that they oppose certain codes over others? Well, here's what Orlowski stated. He said there's a number of manufacturers that are trying to promote their specific product. Now, think about that, listeners. The only way for someone who's a manufacturer, they're making a new mousetrap, whatever it is, a new product, there is only two ways of making money, isn't there? Number one, if you have a new product or device that's wanted by consumers, if people say, hey, that's new and fangled, hey, I can see where that makes sense, I can see where that is something special, you know what? In a free market, people are going to say, yes, I want that. But the other way that a manufacturer can make money is they can say, well, the free market may not think that they need it, so what we'll do is we'll change the market and not make it so free. And how do you make it not a free market? Well, you make it mandatory. You make something that is established as a code, as a new regulation. And what's interesting is Orlowski was saying that when these manufacturers were going to the IRC to ask for an update in the code, they're asking for the update with their product specifically. So think about it, okay? So they want to change the playing field and make the product required and mandatory, because when that happens, then everybody is buying their product and they make a lot of money. Well, is that the right way to do things? The National Association of Home Builders was saying that what occurs, what happens with this relationship with manufacturers and the IRC, can we say conflict of interest? That's exactly, I think, what is going on. You know, a good example of this, just a couple years ago, we talked about this on the show back then. There was a horrific thing that happened, and it happened here in Minnesota. I don't know if you remember, there was one young gal who she was 5 or 6 years old. She had gone to a pool, and what ended up happening is she was swimming and was underwater, but she ended up getting too close to the grate where there's the suction for the system to keep the water moving and keep everything clean and clear. She ended up getting sucked down to the grate of the bottom of the pool, and the suction was so great she was eviscerated, and it was awful. I mean, that is a terrible, horrendous thing to have happen. So they said something needs to be done. Well, that's true. Something needs to be done. But what ended up happening is, in the hype and hysteria, there was one manufacturer that got to Congress right away, and they said, this is the product that'll take care of it. And what they said was happening was that they found out in this particular case, the grate that was on the bottom of the pool, they weren't screwed in. And because of that, the grate was off, so there was a larger hole, and that's why the little girl got eviscerated and died. And so they said, here's the solution, and it was a grate that was similar, but now it had 2 screws. That was it. And the only in that first year, because this was mandatory and there was that reaction, knee-jerk reaction, let's do something now, because you always have to do something. It ended up costing everybody who had a pool about $300 to $500. Now, if you already had a grid, couldn't you just drill out along the two edges and say, we'll just put in screws ourselves? But no, they had to be these screws and this grate from this company. And then a year later, they had a better solution. But because of having something mandated, it helped someone to be able to get a leg up on a free market, and that really wasn't fair. It was fair that was addressed because that was an issue. And that's the question I want us to take a look at today when we're dealing with this issue of fire sprinklers. Is it mandatory? We're going to cover that even further, but we need to take a break right now, so let's do it. You're listening to Where You Live with Gene Sullivan on AM 1280, The Patriot.